Hi, John.
Hi, made it. Boy,
Beautiful day.
it is. Did you get out and bicycle at all?
Yeah, we had a group bike.
Well,
Perfect day for it.
yeah. Ah,
You know what that meeting tomorrow at 11:30 is? I wrote it down, but
that's the one where they're talking with the financial regulators about the impact of putting out a bond.
oh,
I always find those exciting. But
you know how to have a good time.
I do. I do. But I'm going to be on that too.
Yeah. I'm not enthusiastic, but I feel like, if it's something we can back off and just support it, that's great. If they're talking about using open space CPC money, it's like,
I don't think that's going to happen. It's just for the two chunks that we've discussed, the northern
Yeah.
chunk, yeah, and the eastern chunk.
right. No,
Okay.
that's all I'm anticipating. They can't use it for anything else. It's pretty well, having gone over what open space is, definitions, et cetera, I don't think they can do anything more with it. But still, I mean,
Well, you're right to be concerned. This is one of those projects with way too many moving parts.
right.
And if you miss a couple of them, it gets really squirrely. So,
Yep. And the thing that bothered me a little bit was it seemed like they were making up their mind first about whether to go forward with this, and then talking with us. Whereas it seems, I mean, I think we'll be, take a vote as to whether to support looking at this. But I'd be very surprised if people aren't enthusiastic. But you have to check on that and make sure
yeah.
that, you know what I mean. It's
Well, you have 5 different committees working possibly at cross purposes. So
so Fred's into.
mhm.
So Tom's the only other one coming. We need him for the quorum.
I saw Peggy.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
Doing her job. Hi, Fred.
Hi. We did our job. We voted.
Yeah, a lot of people did. I mean, I don't know what that means. We'll find out later, but it certainly was a big crowd.
Yeah, I was surprised. We thought by lunchtime it would thin out, but a lot there.
Hard to know whether there'll be you never know. It's going to be a group that just didn't come to town meeting that doesn't support it. All right.
There's Tom.
Yep, there's Tom. Good. Oh, I don't have to click on his video, right? No.
There he is.
There he is. Hi, Tom.
You're on mute. There you go.
Okay.
Okay, now, first order of business, so we'll start the meeting, but the first order of business, is somebody willing to take just brief notes on these? So there are a whole bunch of votes that I wanted to take, so we have to be on record.
I'll do that.
Okay,
Oh, thank you. I'm terrible at that.
Well,
Me too.
now we can keep it real simple. Peggy's very good and, you know, expansive, but I think we can just do a real simple one.
Mm.
Okay, so first order of business is the agenda. Any questions, problems with the agenda?
No?
Okay. There are just, excuse me one second. There are just a few votes we have to take, you know, for support, but I think I can just add those to the chair report. Okay, move to accept.
move
so
to
moved.
accept.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. For the notes, Peggy just sent them out, I think it was yesterday, or the day before. Did
Yeah.
people get a chance to look at it? If not, we'll just postpone it to the next meeting.
I have to admit, I did not see it.
No.
Okay,
Okay,
we'll do it next time.
Mm.
looks good to me. There was just one or two typos, but just to make sure everyone gets a chance. Okay, so the reports. Now, there are a few things that are coming up that they've asked us to support, and I just want to go on record. I think that's pretty straightforward, but one is the coastal sweep. This is a state coastal zone management beach cleanup. And, you know, they're asking for support and to be a, what's the word for it? To be on the docket for it, essentially. We are sponsoring it. And that doesn't include money, but that means, so that's on Monday, October 10th. And I don't have the time, but we'll get it as this close.
Yeah. So they want us as members to participate or just be a supporter of it, or?
Well, both of the above, but you know, I'm presenting this just to make sure that everyone's on board with us being a sponsor.
Okay,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Good enough. Anybody opposed? Okay. Next one is that there's an AmeriCorps cleanup coming June 17th. June, I was looking at July 17th and I said, it's June 27th.
July 27th.
No,
No.
June 27th
Okay,
is one of them, okay? And July 17th is the other. And I assume as we get closer that, you know, we'll have some more information on this, but this doesn't take a vote. I just want people to know. They're talking about doing Walker, Clover, the Herring River Overlook, and repairing the steps on Drummers Cove. I don't think they're going to get through very much of that. But one of the things we're asked is, does anybody else have some input in terms of what else might need some help out there? Anything, Fred, from your position?
I was trying to think, I can't think of anything offhand, but if I do some thought to it. But offhand, no. Yeah, you already have included Clover.
yep,
Yeah.
Pilgrim Spring. Oh,
No, I didn't say, but I think they did Pilgrim Springs though
okay.
recently.
The Overlook. What was the
Yep.
third one? What was the third one?
And
Walker?
yeah, Walker.
Walker.
And then they probably won't get to it, but on the list of things to do is repair the steps at Drummer Cove. Drummer Cove, I didn't think was in, it's the first time I did it in this year, and I didn't think it was in very good shape, and it was hard to find the place where you go up to get up above if you start from
It's true.
the marsh.
Yeah. I think Bayberry's in good shape, I think.
Yeah.
The trails always need cut. Trim.
Yeah, the grass needs cutting on that one's the only, but okay. And then we got a note from Mallory, you know, the woman on 95 Lawrence Road. And I apologize if I forget her
Oh,
last.
right.
But basically, she just wanted us to know she came on, and a few of us met with her. And the Q&A and
Oh.
for the ZBA is coming up on June 27th. I have 7 a.m. Is that right? Anyway, if you go into the town website, I'll see, but it's June 27th. I can't imagine that's correct though. Yeah. So, and she's asking again for our support. So if people are willing to go to that meeting, it's a question and answer meeting with the ZBA, and they're just looking for support.
Is that going to be in person or remote?
I assume it's everything is Zoom, but I don't know. I haven't been told anything
Okay,
else. I don't know.
I'll look.
Okay. Vice Chair, anything?
Nope.
Okay. Property management, Fred?
No, not really. I think I'm not sure whether I mentioned last time that Meredith and her partner went out and got that stuff that was in the creek off of High Toss Road.
Right.
You know, there had been a wheel and tire and stuff in there, so they got that a lot. But that's all I know.
Right. The only other, did we talk about our meeting? Fred and I met with them. Did we talk about that last time?
I think we did.
Oh, never mind.
So do you want to tell them what happened, or I can't, Fred, either way?
Well, the last time we met with them, we took them out to look at that property on High Toss Road and showed them what we do when we do these types. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I was talking about the more recent one. You know, basically what had happened.
Well, the notebooks and so on.
Right. And,
Yeah.
you know, I was a little bit worried that Audrey's leaving in July and that we were going to get dropped again in terms of getting these books together, et cetera. And she had actually done a lot of work, and both in terms of putting the books together, but in terms of communication, which has been a real, and I mean, we do our work, we do the, you know, look at them and these are the problems. And then many times it sort of dies on the vine there. And they're talking about having a system where they can get it and ultimately putting it on the computer so we can type our stuff in and that will go to everyone. I mean, what's been happening recently is Hillary's not even, it's stopped at Doug, and it stopped at Doug, frankly, and you know, a number of times. And so I thought those were two, you know, very big steps to be taking, and was delighted. I was a little worried that, you know, we weren't around and it might have been dropped. But anything else on that, Fred?
No, Meredith's been helping me get some information for the OSRP. I wanted to get some information on trees, and she shares an office or knows the tree inspector, and she's been helping me on that. So
yeah.
Nice connection there.
I actually have a follow-up on that. I talked to Meredith about something else today, and she's going to be meeting with the head of DPW. They don't have anything written about trees, but they have, practicing the oral tradition, they will have come up with something.
Okay.
So they'll get something back to you in an email.
That's good. I gave them some specific questions, that they, kind of thing that would be good for our report.
Okay. I also reminded them that they were checking off a box for the state. So
Right.
pretty much anything they put in there will be happy. I'm sorry, Bruce, I keep interrupting you.
Well, no, what I was going to say is, but that's true. On the other hand, at town meeting, we actually voted for a group to come up with a plan for the trees and
Right.
protection, et cetera. So I mean, it's a timely thing to be looking at in some ways too. We'll see where it goes. Okay, Lynn is not here. She said she wasn't. She had a bunch of appointments. The trail guides are, they're looking for a new printer, but I don't have anything else to add to that. Peggy's not here. Oh, I'm sorry. Peggy sent me a note on the community outreach.
Mhm.
So Denny and she presented class lessons on mapping skills, the value of conservation to the 4th and 5th graders. And they were going out, I believe this week, they're going out to Pilgrim Springs. Grade 3, because of some scheduling problems, could not go out on the walk, but Peggy presented a lesson on the Wellfleet ecosystems, and I'm sure simplified for the 3rd graders. But, okay, so it sounds like that the education part did happen, and they're going out with 4th and 5th graders this week.
Where are they actually going, Bruce?
I'm sorry?
You know where they're going for their field trip?
Pilgrim Springs. I'm not sure whether they're starting at or Fox Island, they're that hike.
Mm.
Okay. Conservation Trust, we don't have anything to add except they, got the funding for that property on the Herring River, and they're moving forward with that. Oh, there were 2 other things that didn't get brought up. One of them, in talking with Denny, there are a couple of things that were going on. One that we've talked about is what's going to happen with and we'll get to that later, with Maurice's campgrounds. The other is, though, that the town was given several properties on Freshbrook, right over by just across from the Audubon there. And so there's one marsh property, and there's some other properties that are, and I don't have the exact number. The person who donated to there are 2 issues. One is that apparently the lawyers are saying that they can, if the town's given some land, they are able, with the vote of the Board of Selectmen, to take the land. So even though we have to go to a town meeting, if you want to sell an old vehicle or transfer some land, they can apparently do this. One of the issues, which, at one level is great. I mean, that makes it simple. And very frankly, when I have received calls, which I have sometimes, I'm thinking about the donating some land. I assume, we'd probably be delighted to take that. Just so you know, this is something we have to proceed to town meeting with. That's not true. The only downside to this is that when it goes to the Conservation Trust, which it did, he was going to donate the land to the Conservation Trust. They're very careful about looking at potential problems. And one of the problems, according to Denny, is that there is a structure on one of the properties, and there's a question if there's even a basement in there. So, I mean, Hillary signed off on this, and so I'm assuming that she knows what they're getting into, but it's an interesting, it changes things for us. There's no, I don't feel like, after having read through their stuff that they needed to include open space in this. We're not, on the other hand, if they had included us, we would have had an opportunity to check out that land. So bringing it up now, we'll see where things are. At one level, I think it's a really nice thing because there are pieces that are out there and people want to get rid of their marshland or unbuildable land. And if they can, it's much easier for them to do that than it is to take a piece of land that the town already owns and switch it into conservation, as we know.
If you can come up with the map numbers and lot numbers, I think we'd like to look at that too, Bruce, sometime.
Okay, yeah, I wrote it
Not
down.
right now, but you know.
I do apologize. Yeah, I'll give it to you, but there are 3 pieces, I think 4 pieces, including the marsh, all over on Freshbrook, just across on Blue Heron. So just off of Blue Heron, right by the private town landing that's over there. But I wrote it down, but unfortunately.
So it's west of 6 then.
Yes, it's west of 6.
Right.
And again, the other thing that, did kind of, I thought about with this is, remember when we were putting our land, which is much further out than this, but got that into conservation this time around. One of the questions, Tom, because you're at the meeting, that NRAB had was, is this going to potentially impact any restoration that may be done on Freshbrook in the future? Our land doesn't. I still believe that it's far enough out. This one is very close to those 2 junk shops, so, and right where they would be doing the work. So the other thing that has happened, because this didn't go through any process, is that that land is now in conservation. And again, Hillary saw this, she accepted it, and that's ultimately up to her. But there are sometimes some fine tuning that, John Reel, who was the one who was involved with this, really was not going to support our article if it looked like it might interfere with the potential for Trout Brook, Freshbrook restoration. So I'll just.
So it's already, now, Bruce, you said it's already in the Conservation Trust?
It's not conservation trust, it's town. Okay.
It's Conscom, I think.
It's Conscom. So just to say again what happened and the reason this was a switch, Conscom, they went to Conscom, and Conscom had some issues. They said, I'm not sure we're going to do it. So he went to the town and asked the Board of Selectmen, they asked the administrator and the Board of Selectmen, and they talked to a lawyer, whether the town would accept the properties. The town did. Now, at one level, I think that's terrific, as I said, and we don't necessarily have to be a part of that. There are some problems that have come up. Like I say, both the structure, which I have not seen, but Denny has, and the property, and the issue that John Reel had. And so should that have gone, could the town have taken the land without putting that piece into conservation? Doing it this way, it removes these sort of checks and balances that really can help you take a look at things. If one of these properties that was potentially an access, well, never mind. I won't go there. Okay, so that's something that we'll have to look at for the future, and it may make sense just to say, listen to the town, I don't think that's in our mandate, but does it make sense to pass this by us and to pass it by some other committees just to take a look at it? Because John's concern about our thing is it's done. My understanding is it's a done deal. And, you know, that can have some impact on fresh brook restoration if they decide to do it. So anyway, enough on that. Nothing specifically on WCT. Friends of the Herring River, Lynn's not here unless anybody has anything. The Housing Partnership, John?
They're pretty busy with Maurice's. They're on it. They have members on a number of the different committees right now. And they have been distributing a postcard that they leave off at various stores and places to bring people's attention to a survey they're taking on what people think of the Maurice's proposal. And it also directs people to frequently asked questions and stuff like that. But it's a good model for us for our survey for the 5-year plan. In addition to that, they're working on their website, they're working on fundraising, they're working on, that's what they're working on. And one interesting thing that I was involved in, or I was told about, is, where are my notes? The Housing Assistance Corporation and APCC have gotten together and done a mapping project. And I sat in on a training earlier today, and I can get that information around once I get it. And the interesting thing is, so housing and open space basically are at loggerheads up and down the Cape. And what they have done is arrive at an understanding of what is beneficial for housing and what is beneficial for conservation and open space. And then they have mapped accordingly. And these are not regulatory in nature, but they are very helpful in planning. So they were going to send the slides and some other stuff, and I will put that together and get that around to people. But I thought it was a really interesting way to go about it.
So this is one of those, there are a whole bunch of overlays when you go in. They're adding this is an overlay essentially.
Yes.
How did they determine, well, it's probably in there, we'll take a look. Determine what would be a positive open space. It seems like a pretty controversial,
Actually,
what's open space and what's going to be, what's for building.
So for building, they were looking at sections of towns that already had town sewers in place, or plans to put in town sewers, and that would allow for a low impact addition of housing. And then for the other, they made a distinction between open property that is either in Conscom or in trust, and then open property that is unprotected, if you will, and that shows up there. But a lot of it is due to a lot of decisions around that is relative to position, location near marshes or barrier beaches or things of that nature. I mean, for Wellfleet, since we have the National Seashore, most of Wellfleet is protected by and large. So anyway.
Okay. The one other you want to talk about?
What?
The one other thing is with the CPC, I'll say it real quickly.
Okay.
Fred Collett went to the meeting and they talked about potentially using open space money for the CPC. That's one where I think we need to. It's we've sent a note of support and et cetera. But if they're talking about using our money for the CPC money to essentially lower the cost of the project, that's something that we need to be involved with out front and not be told after the fact. And so one of the things, in fact, I wanted to do is just to get, and this is, we don't know how it's going to work. And, you know, are there two pieces of property, one, the wetlands, although as I look at definition for wetlands, I may not meet it, but it's a reasonable area to put into preservation anyway. And then also buffer we were talking about, and at least Ryan, who I talked to, is interested in it along the bike path.
Mhm.
So what would happen is, and they're just working on all of this, it's a far way away, but what would happen is that they would put those properties into conservation. You have to get a conservation restriction on it. They'd have to go, it's complicated, through conservation trust. Probably you can't do it through conscom. Danny thought you might, but you cannot. So the bottom line is, John and I are going to become more involved with this, and we'll see where that goes. And you know, the one thing I wanted to do is just take, and it's just a vote of, is that something that the committee would be interested in? In other words, if they were not, they're a long way away from seeing whether this is possible and how they do it, et cetera. But just, you know, if we took a vote saying we either support or don't support this, I think it would be helpful. Any thoughts?
Specifically, what do you mean? We would be voting in favor of or opposed to a specific scenario?
No, there's no, you know, we're a long way away from a specific scenario, but what I would just say is that to make it in the form of a motion, I guess, that the Open Space Committee would support the study and potential usage of CPC funds for protection of conservation property on
For that fund.
This is all related to Maurice's campground, you're saying?
It is.
Yes.
This is the land in Maurice. What they're talking about doing, and that Fred called me up and let me know, but is using, if there's some of the land that's going to be protected, you know, this wetlands area, if it really is by definition, but in the area that they're calling wetlands, and maybe a buffer along the bike path, that sort of thing. If those are going to be used as essentially open space, would we support that? And, you know, it really is, you start to look at it, it's very complicated. It's not worth going into, but I just wanted to get a sense again as to whether we would be in favor of looking at that and considering using our CPC funds for the protection of open space there. The reason they would do it is we get some mandatory 10%. Most of that money, the CPC money that they use, is going to come from the housing partnership or from the housing CPC. But you know, another place where they can knock the price of the purchase price of the place down.
Well, it sort of begs the question, I guess, is this actually going to go through? I mean, everything seems to go through in this town, but, you know, I think we should, assuming that it does, it seems as though we should be having some role in deciding what, you know, what they're going to do, they use for open space and so forth. So.
Right. But I think one of the things, and one of the reasons I'm bringing it up now, is that if this is something, and again, you know, it's vague enough that people don't even want to vote on it, I'm okay with that. And that, but it's one of the ways in which is they're putting together this funding and the, you know, bonds and et cetera. They can say here are some other opportunities. And so you know, on the vote in September, I'm doubting that there's going to be something, but this could be one of the mitigating. In other words, we were planning on X amount of CPC money from housing. We're planning on, and give a ballpark for, so the purchase price of the place could be less than what they were saying initially. You know, we can write off some of that. So that's the only reason to do it now. I hear you, Tom. We we don't have to even vote on this now. But
Well, and the other question is, would we want to use that money for other purposes?
absolutely.
And,
Use the other question.
but I don't see any reason why we couldn't just at least tell them that we support the efforts that they're looking at, maybe. I don't know
Yeah,
what anyone else thinks.
well, Bruce and John, I understand, are going to be following this. And I think I would favor them having an open mind about the possibility of using open space money if it is reasonable. Obviously, we don't want to just throw our money that we've gone without for some time now. Ever since I've been on the committee, there's been no CPC money available.
Right.
So now that we're starting to get some, I don't want to give it up easily unless it's it makes sense. And so I think you guys follow it, and at some time, if you feel that now we should vote on it, that would be the time to do it. But right now, I think we're probably just.
Okay.
Yep, I hear you, John.
I was just going to say, I like the idea, though, of following along, because having a voice at the table will protect the northern wetlands and also along the bike path. At least you have a greater say in what decisions they're going to make about that.
Right.
So,
And just as a plug, I mean, I think that you have to, I haven't even gone over and looked at the land, so I'm not sure what, but you know, the land that we've looked at, or Conservation Trust has looked at with us, along the water is just prohibitively expensive. Any of the, you know, and I mean, and here's an opportunity to help them with, you know, a buffer of land there. We don't have to use our money for it. I mean, they might do it anyway, but it's a way to both, you know, support the effort if people are in favor of that, and a use of the money that I think could be reasonable. I don't see other people, you know, if the Eastman property came up for sale, I think that would be something that we might regret having put a lot of money into here. But it's not, just to say one of the things, and I'll stop, is that, you know, they have to do an appraisal, or even that's, I guess, up in the air, but they need to come up with a number in terms of what the property's worth. We're not underwriting the property, the project, by saying, you know, take it. So we won't take a vote now, and I hear you, we'll follow along.
well, we may learn something tomorrow.
Okay, anything else on the CPC, Fred?
Well, I just wanted to let the committee know that there's going to be a round of proposals, applications it has to be in by July 15th. As they did last summer, they had an early round, and they're going to do the same thing this year. They don't know exactly how much money they have available. The accounts are somewhat unsettled, as you can imagine. But they're thinking something like 400,000, something like that.
Yeah.
So currently we have about 74,000. And if we had something ready to go, I can get it in by July 15th, we could do that. So that was number one. The other thing was they discussed the Maurice's playground, and Gary Sorkin detailed what he knew about it. I guess he's rather involved with the financing, and they're figuring the bonding is going to cost about $100 a year just for the, I don't know how bonding works, but there's a certain amount of money they had to come up with. And he was wondering whether open space might be a source of that. And
The playground.
no specific thing was mentioned about how it would be spent. There was no talk about open space. It's just they needed to finance the bonding There's a certain, I don't know about bonding, but he talked about $100. It would cost about $100 a year for just the bonding.
But he's not looking to use our money for that, Fred, right?
He was looking for money to pay for the annual cost of the bonding. Not paying off the bond, but
Well,
so, somebody who knows finance
mm,
knows what's going on there.
the reason I'm shaking my head is, the thing is, we have a very specific, and again, as we've been doing this stuff with the committees, I've read over all the information again and what we can protect. We can use our money to buy, I'm gonna hit that, I do have here somewhere, but we can, acquire, create, preserve property, but we are not allowed to support, to really rehabilitate or restore. And there's no mention, there's no, that's not in our charter, you know what I mean? That just doesn't make sense. If they're looking to, again, with the playground, say, could this be used as recreational money? Something else to think about. I'm less enthusiastic, but than the other. But
That's what I said was what was presented to.
yeah, no, I hear you.
So I said they should talk to you or John because you were following what was going on.
All right. I don't, we'll watch it, but I just don't think it makes sense. The other, it even goes on further, includes land to existing in future well fields, aquifers, agricultural land, et cetera, but it has it all defined. It's a narrow enough definition that you can't just, anyway, we'll just follow it, Fred, that's all.
I suggest you talk to Gary Sorkin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And NRAB, Tom?
Well, the article that we had put forward on doing a harbor survey of flora and fauna, et cetera, for the cost of 60,000 was withdrawn from the, or put on, what do they call it? Indefinite postponement.
Right.
And the thought being that it'll come up again in the September town meeting, and hopefully by then they will have some idea what the free cash might be, and that some of that might come out of there. So that's that. And in the meanwhile, John and John Dwayne, who are on the committee, are going to work up a request for a proposal to send out just to see what sort of what sort of cost it might engender, if it's less than that or if it's a lot more than that to do the study. So that's that. And then we had a preliminary discussion that regarding management of the land that we are protecting, or Conscom is protecting, or that the Wellfleet Conservation Trust owns. And I guess it's just looking at, we looked a lot at marshland and so forth. And one of the discussions that came up is, should we be looking at how we deal with the upland, and are there things that should be done, like habitat for endangered species, or, clearing out invasive plants and that kind of thing. It's something I guess we'd have to talk to the Conscom, to the trusts and others. Audubon does preserve some areas for certain types of bird habitat. The seashore does control burns for certain things. So, it may be too small a scale for what we have, but on the other hand, it might be something worth thinking about and kind of working out if there is anything that can be done there. So just a preliminary thought, I guess.
I think it's a great idea to look at it. There are a couple of properties, the ones out by Route 6 along the You know, that whole long marsh, what's the name of the road towards the dump there, anyway. But at this point, both of those properties are just invasive. I mean, they've been taken over by invasive. And for me, it's an advertisement about why not to put land in conservation. So I think the discussion is a good one.
Yeah, all right. And that's all I have.
Okay. The only other thing, speaking about town meeting, and I apologize, it's a little out of order, but that I thought was interesting is that the town did agree to do a study on the property over by Lieutenant Island, the Agra property. And if people remember, we 2 years in a row supported, you know, number one, first buying the property and then getting an easement. If the town is really looking to make sure that that access to the Agra property remains open, then again, it's another opportunity. That's small money. It would be like 20.
It was interesting that we were not asked to give an opinion on that article after all the discussion we had.
That's true. That's true. Whether we support it or not, right?
Well, and as I recall, one of the things that came up was, you know, maybe let sleeping dogs lie. And so that we don't stir up any neighborhood ideas of, well, maybe we should block this off. Anyway.
But I think,
So,
no, I hear you. And, you know, but they have, I've been involved around that property with the access committee, and they're the ones that are doing this. And, you know, I think it's over there makes sense to do a study. They're not saying they're gonna go to court around it. They're just saying, let's do the study and see who owns what and where the access might be. But I just bring it up because there's an opportunity for us to use our CPC money, you know, again, 20,000 or something as a ballpark, that would be great. Okay, the 5-year plan. Anything, John?
Don't have any update. We're going to be meeting on Thursday, I think at 4 of this week. So
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to bring up is besides the when you talked about the Board of Health had a survey, and they handed these out at town meeting. I came right back and did it. I don't know how many people did, but I thought it was a great idea, at least in terms of trying to get people on the computer to do the studies. And Peggy had mentioned that as a way to approach this before, but at this point, the technology, I mean, I think it's going to be much more effective than some of the other things we were hearing about, you know, getting people together in a room and blah, blah, blah. Okay, nothing on the titles. I haven't done anything. No access. Well, the access issue is the question over on Lieutenant Island. Okay. So the only other thing I had was, again, there are 3 to 4 parcels that I do think make sense to put in conservation. And those are map 29, 505, and maybe 400. That has some access use, so we have to. And then map 36, parcels 288 and 289. And the process, and the reason I think it makes sense, I mean, on the one hand, that property down the end of Bond Point, we'll have to be careful about this, mostly private to get there, so we'll have to figure out. But as long as we can get ourselves in there, you know, it takes potentially a month to get on the Conservation Commission docket. Then it takes some time for it to go to town hall. Then it goes out to committees, which can take some time, and it's supposed to be 30 days. This one was 45 days before the committees come in, and the other committees have to go before the planning board goes. The only reason I'm going on about this is that if we're planning to do anything for next year, it's a kind of thing where we do have to get going fairly quickly. None of this is critical. If we miss a year and wait until the year after, it's nothing major is going to happen with the land. But if we do want to put these properties in conservation, we have to, it takes a long time to
Okay,
go through.
What were the two on map 29, 505, and what was the other one?
505 and 400 are map 29, and that's right over, that's Payne Hollow. And those properties, the 505 is a new one, so it's not even on the old map, but that came out of a subdivision that was over there. That whole stretch of Payne Hollow is in conservation except for those two pieces. So when you go around the only downside to 400 is that, with the pushback we've been receiving from Board of Selectmen and others about access, that was a car access. It's still there to the pond. And there's a pond they used to call the skating pond. And so whether we'd really,
yeah.
so whether we'd really want to do that one or not, I had it, I thought was perfect, but then I think as we run into things, the other two, 36, 288, and 289 are off Bond Street. If you follow Bond Street out off, you've been out there, Fred, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And the Conservation Trust has received one property, and they're waiting until 2023 to because of some state funding and other things to get the other piece. So I was saying, why don't we wait until 2023, which is next year, at least to get those, but they abut those pieces. And, again, seems like a reasonable thing, looking to put pieces together, they right on the water. And if we're looking to hazard for the hazard mitigation stuff, this would be a reasonable way to go.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So what do people think? Should we get together and look at these properties, or?
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay. So I'll send out a note, because the three of us aren't, Liz may not, won't be back probably anyway, but just to do it. Find a time. Okay, anything else? Hey. So I think that's it.
okay,
Obviously, the properties were accepted by town meeting on a unanimous vote. So when, as much as it's a crazy process from my perspective, there's no process with accepting, 4 pieces of property on Blue Heron, and way too much process around taking a piece of land that town already owns and put it in conservation. But in either case, that is the way it works. And so we got it. Okay, move to
I was surprised that the planning board was willing to get up and say they supported it after all their obstruction, it seemed.
that's why they got up. And somehow I wrote to Silverman that, the number of committees, NRAB, the Conscom, obviously, and had supported this, and planning board. And somehow that did not get announced. I think a number of them got missed, frankly, and not just ours. But so I'm delighted that he got up, because the reason it was indefinitely postponed was that they hadn't received it last year. So anyway, so that's it.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
All in favor of ending?
Uh,
Nobody knows.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right.
Bruce,
Yep.
Ah,
Okay, do you have something, Tom, or you want
no, I was just trying to find the leave meeting option.
to? I'll do the end. That'll do it for you.